Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our conversation with Patrizia Stefanini. I'm Steve Rogne. I'm the director of Zen Shiatsu Chicago. Patrizia is the instructor of our course, Hado Shiatsu, Exploring the Landscape of Perception. Patrizia has a PhD in medical physics, and she's the director of the European Shiatsu Institute. And Patrizia, thank you very much for joining us today for this conversation.
Thank you to you, Steve, and hello to everybody. It's always very exciting for me to share some of my personal development in Shiatsu.
Yeah, thanks again for being here. And I'm excited to have this class in November. I've studied with you on two other occasions. It's been very inspiring to me on a number of levels. I think that what has really stood out to me from studying with you, your method, Hado Shiatsu, brings your experience in physics, quantum physics, the dynamics of water and light. It brings it together to I feel like it's an anatomy class in a way. You know, when we learn anatomy as a body worker, we don't know what we're feeling. What is this? Where is this muscle? What happens here? What is it like to, and as we get more advanced in shiatsu too, we can maybe concentrate and understand. Can we even feel the health of the circulatory system? Can we feel the health of the nervous system? Can we tune into these different levels of physiology of the body? And the more we understand the movements and the flows and their qualities, the more we can perceive, accurately touch, and track the changes that happen in someone. And the anatomy that you have outlined is something that uh, gives a language for some of the very, very subtle applications of the work, the way that our touch can so immediately give change for another person, or these subtle qualities we talk about, the vibration, the healthy resonance, these kinds of things that we can feel. We can feel a skilled teacher can help someone feel it. They can help us, a student, concentrate on and follow healthy change and healthy resonance. But what is it? What is healthy resonance? And the vocabulary that you have has given me a real, I feel, appreciation, a starting language, and I'm excited to be just part of exploring your work. It seems like it's an evolving vocabulary right on the very edge of what we even have language for in our science and our understanding of the body. And I wanted to sort of start there just for anyone who hasn't studied with you before. I'll give my best summary from my study with you for the past years, and you can add or correct anything
Great,
that's off
great,
track.
thank
But
you.
yeah, great. And when I share this kind of thing with students, I mentioned that this discussion of water and light is really the same in many, many ways as our discussion of yin and yang, our discussion of jing and shen, this idea that the water in our body is the structure of the body, it's the jing, it's the yin, and in your quantum physics background, you're appreciating that the structure of water in the body, that it has a structure, that the structure of water is this matrix. The properties of water are such that every tissue in the body has this beautiful electrically conductive and a pathway that even allows light to flow through it, essentially a fiber optic network. The structure of the body is this fiber optic network made from structured water. And that
Yeah,
the what we absorb into that structure is light, the light from the sun, the light from the foods that we eat. This is all this all charges and gives potential for the structure of the body, and that these structured light fields convey information. That part of the reason that change happens in such an organized and fast way in the body is it's truly happening through not just fluid flows, circulation flows, but light, the communication between light signaling that happens through this structure, and things that even are, this gets sort of beyond my scientific understanding, but just as you expressed it to me, things that are even faster than light, sort of immediate speed through quantum resonance, the changing of quantum properties. And all of this is things because all of us human beings are these beings of light held within structured water that information not only transmits in the body to organize the body, but as a practitioner, the kind of resonance that we bring gives communication. Information is conveyed into the receiver in such a way that when we ask questions, what is it to feel the healthy resonance? And suddenly there's an answer, suddenly there's a feeling. When we adjust our own body to help reinforce that resonance, information is transmitted through all these mechanisms and infuses the whole body. And the quality of concentration that we have is affecting light fields and information systems in all sorts of ways that we have maybe some observation of and some we can only guess at. And so that's the way I talk about it to people when I try to explain
Brilliant.
what
Thank
is
you
on.
very much. You know, the starting point for me was the intriguing possibility that human being or living system can be not just merely be considered biochemical systems, but we had to take in account these organized light fields based within a water based like gel-like matrix, as you said. And so fire and water and our knowing about how important is it, the Far East theory, medicine, this water yin and yang is fantastic because it looks like science give us a new word to understand is based. And then the other fact for me was that quantum physics, modern quantum physics, so the modern quantum physics means the quantum physics applied to living system, give me a lot of explanation of my practical experience treating my clients and give me an idea based on a model, scientific model, how I can do my work. So being able to resonate with the kind of situation for my client that can be considered preventive for somatic expression in their body. So, the other very, very, very beautiful theory is that if we can consider ourselves as a macro quantum system, we are able to understand how some properties of life can be seen in a much wider realm, like the one that if we are open system, we are always resonating with environment. So we understand a lot about the fact that if we are in a beautiful garden, if our treating room is full of beauty and good thing, good symbols, whatever, we feel better compared to when we are in a messy or crowded situation, because we are open system. And the fact to be open allowed other important properties to be recognized. That is the one that's very important for us and explains a lot the meridian system, the ability to be able to self-organize ourselves. So to lower our noise, to increase the integration between system, or we can say cells, we can say molecule. We can also talk about meridian net. So this fact to be more integrated allowed our system to function in a more efficient way. So we can say at that point that the net of meridians are very, very well doing their work in a sense.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, the description of we're open systems and that the environment that is around us helps bring us into alignment. And this has the implication, like you're saying, when we can also self-organize ourself, this realization that the alignment that we bring in when the noise within us is lower, that this increases our clarity, our sensitivity to what is in the environment. And that is a good segue, I think, also for what we're hoping to bring into this training in November is this sense of, like all of Shiatsu, Hado Shiatsu gives us that, brings us to that importance of the self-cultivation, what is it to bring ourselves into alignment and good resonance, to reduce that noise, and then what can we pick up on? What can we be sensitive to and find and follow in the environment? And I think it's helpful to remind people as well that when we're in that state, when we're in a good open resonant state where we can pick up on information, all of our senses are available to us. The people relate to each of us tends to come with senses that are maybe more attuned or more natural to us than others, where some people, when we talk about light, for example, some people have a very well-tuned visual sense where they might be able to see visually the structure of light or the emission of light. Some people, and in Shiatsu, I feel maybe most practitioners are very attuned to the sense of touch and the kinesthetic feeling of
Yeah.
what they pick up on. And for this workshop and our conversation today, I'm curious to explore some of the ways that the sense of feeling can be engaged when we're talking about these concepts of light and quantum resonance. And then, very specifically, what in Hado Shiatsu, the kinds of applications that go with certain kinds of conditions, just to give students some sense of what specifically they'll learn and how it can be applied in certain complex cases and health
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah. You know, concerning the first topic, is is a very open kind of field of development, even a lot of personal kind of journey. Let's say that as a physicist, I studied with brilliant professors where it was normal to say that a hand can see, a eye can touch. Because in the modern understanding of how a human being works, senses are not split, are not depending one on the other. And so, especially if we have a good coherence degree, so if as a system we are kind of well organized and low noise, more and more even our mind is part of this sense
Mhm.
that we can use. So let's say that I like to say that the ordinary five senses plus the mind create a sort of very special setting of possibility to perceive. For example, when I say I can see biophotons, first of all, it's good to remember that the self-organized system is able to organize itself using three fundamental way. The dissipation, they live lowering the temperature, so heat dissipation, production of soliton, a special wave packet that are in the optical fiber, the best way of transmitting information and energy, and natural biophoton emission. The photon is the quantum of light, bio because we are in biological system. So let's say units of energy can spread around to get rid from the body that doesn't need any longer so constipated state of energy. So mailing helps deal with the minimal amount of energy in the best possible way organized. The opposite of what we tend to think in mechanical way. So if we have this biophoton emission, it's always lie there, but with the touch we can even increase and support this mechanism and also the other one. The sense of intuition of something is going in the right way is supported by the vision, but not only by a kind of state of mind like the meditative one. They make us feeling, okay, I am here, I am now, I'm facing the ordinary special situation of human connections. I have a kind of intuition that I'm supporting my life and the receiver one because of I am witnessing in that way life for somebody else. So it's very poetical. Modern quantum physics is very there are some points that I can say are kind of spiritual mystics. And I met beautiful, incredible professor of theoretical physicists that before a lesson, they were kind of aligning themselves, going in this special state of mind. So it's not the rational part of our understanding that has to take over. It's not a mechanical vision or deterministic one that makes sense. We have to open ourselves to these other magnificent way paradigms based on this concept that the science is integrating in the daily life.
Yeah, if I understand your point, it's even though we can describe these phenomena of light fields in ways where we can describe what is happening. We could describe, oh, there's dissipation, oh, there is a soliton. This doesn't mean that we are approaching it deterministically. Oh, I see this needs to happen, this must happen, that must happen, but
Exactly.
rather that open mindset of we're here with that trust that things are moving in the right direction. Show me what wants to happen, what healthy
Yeah,
change is right for you. Then we can have a language for what we see, but we're not forcing it with an agenda or a specific.
that's it. Exactly that.
Yeah.
And is that a process that allowed us to learn through our receiver? As I told you, I'm treating in the last couple of years situation of chronic diseases, people with some self-immunity system diseases, and it's so beautiful the Hado touch because there is this, as you know, minimal stimuli. You don't have to force anything, even leaning, even touching. And considering that we are in a multiple dimension setting, even the quality of the touch can adjust, even the perpendicularity, I mean, depending on we are resonating with the receiver because field shapes always change depending on how energy moves. And Kyojitsu open to a different understanding. I can always see Kyojitsu as empty and full in the kind of temporary linear kind of paradigm, but I mainly use a qualitative circular paradigm where Kyojitsu are like yin and yang in the Tao connection, moving together to explain the life process. So it's not that we are healthy because we don't have Kyojitsu. We always will have until we are alive. And meridian are a life phenomena, so there will be always a landscape in a meridian. But the way in which I can tune with this landscape make the difference.
Mhm.
And you know, and
Yeah.
and the
I
idea that this self-focalized fire field and this beautiful coherent water work together
mm,
allowed us now give us the possibility to tune through personal tubes in this optical fiber meridian like system, and the response will be perceived even through visions or pictures or change of my own kind of presence. So I would like during the hour symposium that the group will be willing to be surprised by some experience they will have, the kind of feedback we will work on application, the kind of case studies, the kind of feedback will be part of the class, the way in which we can change even the wording of our final feedbacks, or even the preparation. I use the word ritual, the opening ritual, the preparation of us as a giver to welcome the unique expression of life we are going to touch. And this is very precious to me.
yeah, thanks for sharing that. And when you talk about Gyojitsu and this dynamic fire field in the water matrix, it reminds me my own sense of Kyojitsu, I think is similar in the sense that it's so much more than that idea of excess and deficient. it is the moment in time of a dynamic process that is changing. So when we see in the treatment moment, here is Kyojitsu coming together as a resonant pair, what this means is we're seeing the emergent uh, movement of something new coming into a stronger expression, and that might be Kyo. And we're seeing the conclusion of a healthy expression coming into it. You know,
Yeah,
the Jitsu movement is this conclusion and settling. The Kyo is this coming into being more fully. With that mindset change, it is that we always see this dynamic system that is always healthy, always self-regulating. And that mindset just brings us to a different relationship with our client, I think.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, very recently, a client of mine, in the very first treatment she received from me, the final feedback was, it was as if I was swimming in the sea and I was kind of touched by the water. That I found a fantastic way of supporting this idea that the water, we are water-based system, and the quality of touch has to tune with this quality. How I did, really, and we will share these, experimenting on the techniques. I mean, it's good also to have this kind of personal research based on our fundamental kind of reference studies, but also and this receiver gave me a beautiful feedback depending on how we perceive the receiver want to be touched. How can we know this? Is a resonance once more. More I feel, more I have a yes from the energy field of the receiver, and the resonance, you know, giver receiver that I call uketoru, using a Japanese word that we will describe all of this in the beginning of our symposium. If the uketoru, so the resonance between field and receivers improve, we are sharing more life expressions, and I will support more the receiver process. Just giving this kind of linking my good phase or kind of say coherent state to them. And that's a kind of also important part of the Hado work. We have to work on our good health. That is good, quite, you know, kind of demanding, but very good to do.
Yeah, and I think this gives us the context of the work. It's from this mindset that we approach these phenomena of light and the quantum phenomena. I think a question that might shape some of the rest of our conversation is, we're working towards what are the specific applications? What does this look like when someone has musculoskeletal issues? What does it look like when someone has autoimmune condition? But even before we ask that, I wonder if you have a basic vocabulary of the kinds of phenomena that you then tend to observe. What happens that you facilitate? For example, we've talked about dissipation. We've talked about the soliton, which is its own whole vocabulary. But and we can dig a little deeper into these. But do you have maybe are there three or four or five basic phenomena that tend to happen that you observe and follow and facilitate in Hado Shiatsu?
Yes, there is a protocol in a sense. So first of all, the first phenomena is to have a yes from the receiver field. When I'm kind of starting the connection through in the different Shin phases using my different tools, I try to encourage with my presence the receiver to open, to be willing to go in this ride of possible changes. And this is very personal, is very subjective, but when I feel that, okay, how can happen, there is a sort of opening of a new space of connection. Even I have a feeling that the studio become wider, a kind of and lighter. So it's really a welcoming. And this is, of course, the very beginning phase. Then through the touch, another important thing that happens when I am in connection, in a Hado connection, that is a phase resonance. We will talk a lot about this, how different is compared to the frequency resonance. I can find a lot of tsubos along the meridian, personal one, not just the Chinese one, the traditional one. So what does it mean? The personal tsubos are a special call from my receiver to be more tuned with the uh, wider information of their own field. And in the personal tsubo, for example, I can use the solitons possibility. I can support a personal creation of a solitary way that we know is the best and most effective way of transmitting information and energy. And this is through the really touching. I can perceive how this Vitalico would, Masunaga would would said, increase the sense of okay, my touch is going in a direction that means communication with the receiver field. So I'm no more doing. Very often we know not to do, but just be in that moment. Really, I'm no more doing. I'm a present, witnessing this kind of vital phenomena. What I'm looking for, not really to understand, but to process different possibility of movement of the receiver field. For example, when I treat people with that are difficult to be touched, one client told me, I'm here, but I'm scared to be touched. But I saw some video of you, and I want to have this experience. When I'm kind of able to land, to lean with my hand of this kind of people, they don't feel pain. And I can see that through the touch, they are actually relaxing. So we know that relaxation in the first phase of integration, letting go, and so on and so forth. I feel that I'm doing probably a tiny little part of the personal healing journey, but an important one, because they are welcoming another person to help them in a sense. And also another part is that, as I told before, the final feedback, the face they have, the word they are using, the fact that even if they came talking about what was wrong in them, the final feedback is based on a kind of wondering what's happened because it has been a kind of special experience. So these are the first things that come in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good description of the whole process that the it sounds like you're describing first the getting that yes from the receiver's field, that feeling that we're connected in that way that creates more that wider, lighter space, really full of possibility. That is my sense too of, entering into the Hado mindset, that sense of we're here for that emergence of healthy resonance where we feel that things are moving in the right direction. All of those different subjective feelings come together in this way, and that in that state experience, that then through touch, there's that finding of the personal subos and the especially this phenomena of soliton. And the last time you taught here in 2022, that was my first time to really feel that experience, or have you recognize at the same time, yes, that's a soliton, and to feel the change that happens. And it really for me gives a very clear experience of that moment where the receiver's body self-organizes, that moment of, if I just stay here, everything is possible, just in that open way,
Right.
without having a specific need to understand, but just allow for the possibilities. Uh, I would say I have only a very rudimentary, really almost no understanding scientifically of what what a soliton is, other than I've had you help me connect to it by touch. it feels most to me, when you reference Masanaga's echo kind of phenomenon, that feeling
Yeah.
like when you, I find with the Soliton, there's that feeling of here's the Subo that calls me, and here's some other Subo. Maybe I put my hand on it, or maybe it's just somewhere that I can be aware in the body, and there's this interaction between two places. Like in a
Yeah.
way, it's maybe often feels like when Kyo and Jitsu truly respond, when we feel that, oh, what's over there settles, what's over here activates, and the two are in communication with each other. This settles into a better alignment. Um, does that all sound accurate, at least from the sense of touch and what we're connecting to in that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And recently I also was kind of introducing the entanglement phenomena. I mean, not always. I mean, the resonance, yeah, the entanglement. And so that's another possibility that there is this the connection at a distance. And that's exactly what we perceived through mother and son hand. And when the solitary weight, the solitons, is moving, that's the best efficient movement of energy and information that we can have. So energy can move in very different way. When there is this specific movement that we call soliton, in physics there are a lot of explanation of these. We have a clear feeling. In 2002, you told me I can almost hear the sound. It's true. There is kind of as if a particle, a ball, a little tiny invisible ball is moving. So there is even also a sound or something like very concrete that we can kind of perceive or guess it's happening. And also there is no, it's very efficient because there is not a dispersion of change of the shape of the information. That is another very important thing because we make receiver even more aware of their own possibility of change. So they, at the end of a session, when somebody say, now I feel I can do it. Here it is, exactly.
Mm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
For the sake of those watching, I mean, this is one example. I feel like the reason the Hado Shiatsu, one reason that's helpful for me is having a vocabulary and experience, confidence in facilitating on every level that the receiver is self-organizing. I like this description of just the most efficient way, the way in which it just happens of its own accord without any extra interference or dispersion. And at times, also it helps that we work in a way that gets into the tissue in more of a way where, I might switch my concentration to really be mostly at a sinew level, helping with pain relief in different ways. But if all of that is just wrapped in this context of that mindset, that uketori connection, that sense of really feeling for those moments when, okay, here's the exact place where I can just feel the receiver self-organize. That means that always the receiver's energy leads the way. Their way of self-organizing leads the way, no matter what else I might do with something that's more overt, bigger movement, or more into the tissue. Uh, yeah. Uh, so yeah, with that as just sort of one example to ground us, maybe I can just ask you about a few of the categories that we have planned for this class. If you have just something you'd say about what the Hado approach, when we talk about applications for this or that category, whatever comes to your mind. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I was thinking about specifically two clients of mine. One had a cancer and he had to go through a heavy duty story of radio and chemotherapy. And I've been asked to be present weekly, twice or three times a week with my touch. And what I felt was an incredible experience. And by the way, now this receiver is healthy and his back is fully
Mhm.
in his life. But was incredible for me was to feel that between one medical session and another one, I could support his vital key to be willing to stay in a good shape and in a good kind of field structure. So with this client, sometime I was feeling the radiation he had absorbed. And so my touch had to be very much in alignment. I was in my mind aware that I was facing a difficult human situation, and I was using mantras while I was treating, and being aware that even the sound vibration can be very healthy, especially if they come from that tradition. And also, it was beautiful to see how the poor man was arriving on my futon, almost falling down. And then at the end of the session, we could talk, we had something to do together, he could stand. Immediately, it was more vital. And this has been a very beautiful experience and very touching. Another one is with the lady
May
that,
I actually ask you a little bit more about that case with this client with cancer and keeping his key vital in between treatments? When you're giving those treatments, of course, you approach with that open mindset that we will just be surprised and see what happens. Is there anything you can share about what you did observe through this
yeah,
language of
yeah,
light and resonance?
yeah. I mean, studying with Professor Pop in Neuss in Germany, I have had the chance to see proper scientific studies on cancer cells. And
Mhm.
in the realm of in the glossary of coherence, cancer cells are very chaotic. You can see that there is a lot of noise. They are out of the elegant dynamic dance of the healthy one. And so, it was for me possible to, in some cases, to tune with the kind of the phase dynamics of this field and to perceive where, and spatial is not local, there was this noise of dancing, there was this chaotic feeling. And so the attitude was to give order or to support the possible or the order possible for that field in that moment. And it's as if when we are singing a song and you have a kind of wrong notes, and then you sing again and you try to have the proper tune with the proper notes and you feel it's working better. That's the kind of metaphor I can give you. And
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It speaks to so many senses, even like the sense of sound, but also that a certain logic. I do just, love all this language that gives some deeper sense clarity of what we're doing and that the cancer cells just are out of coherence with the rest of the system. And purely by encouraging that coherence, of course, our mind can start to think of all sorts of further explanations, more coherent circulation into that area. The immune system can connect more freely into that tissue and everything that goes with it. And yeah, that's a great example. Thanks for sharing.
you're very welcome.
Yeah. And you mentioned you had another case in mind also?
Yeah, another case in mind is a lady with multiple sclerosis that was entering in my studio on a wheelchair, of course. And she couldn't have the feeling of her legs. She said, I'm here, but I don't know how much I can feel your hands. And it was so touching the first time that after 10 minutes, she was I feel you are touching my feet.
Mm.
And so I was trying to understand also myself what was going on. And the kind of explanation I found was that meridians were taking the main role of connecting information through the body, through the field. Nerve system can be injured, can have some problem, but meridians not. And what was happening is that this lady, every time I treated her, was able to walk out of the studio,
Mm.
the wheelchair.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
of course, this situation was not lasting. The week after, she was arriving on the wheelchair. And in that case, I was sorry I couldn't give her regularly every day some treatment, because probably the situation of being more aware of legs could have helped her in gaining some strength and some ability to walk. But this, I can just say what happened, and I don't want to say that I make her walking, but I was facing this miracle of life. The
Mhm.
meridians could support the energy to travel around that part of the body, giving her temporary possibility to walk.
Hmm. Yeah, when you describe it, it reminds me of everything we've talked about of supporting interconnection, of supporting coherence. That, yeah, it seems like a very clear example of how it can have such a strong physiological effect. Uh, yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Immediately, even if the state of mind was, I cannot, I've had a lot of trouble, blah, blah, blah. But then if you feel your legs, it's natural to try to put some weight on. And she did it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing both of those cases. That gives some sense, yeah, some appreciation how all the skills we've already talked about, we can really see them in action in the context of these different kinds of chronic illness, cancer or MS. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing those. Is there anything else that has occurred to you while we're talking? Anything else that would be relevant to
You,
share on the
you,
topic?
just the outlook. I mean, I'm kind of thinking, considering the time being of our planet, if also a kind of a circle of people as we try to be with coherent state of mind can create a special kind of field where trauma problem can be helped. So trauma people can gain some healing thanks to also collaboration of different therapists that want to work together in this sharing this vision. I'm no more thinking about just shiatsu, of course, any kind of healer or therapist or doctors or whatever, people that want to support life. And it can be fantastic to create this kind of personal support for the planet, where energy can be supported and gain some freedom degrees towards a better ecological system in every sense. So it is a
Thank
kind
you.
of,
Yeah, that's important for me as well, that interpersonal sense when the chi becomes really the combination more than the sum of the parts, when people come together
yes.
in this spirit, that I just feel very grateful that we have these opportunities to come together in person as a group for that strength of coherence that can move out into the planet. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So thanks for offering to me and to the one that will come this possibility. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for coming. We're looking forward to it. And
I
thanks
hope.
everyone for watching.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.